Hello and welcome to the Chew Strong podcast.
No. No, that's not how we are starting. I literally just asked you, I think people want to hear you start the podcast. And you said, well, I'm ready to bring the heat. And that was the heat.
That was it. People love that.
There are people that are literally just now starting a race. Like they're like 100 yards in to their race. And I what do you want to say to those people right now? Is this where they're pedal to the metal?
No.
Pass, gap, and bury
No.
every person in front of you?
Come on. Have you ever raced any? Come on. No. You don't do that early. What's wrong with you?
I think there's still a little bit of race nerves. I mean, some people, they start and they're like, oh my gosh, my legs feel like Jell-O. I thought I was fit, but I'm not. I wanted to do this, but now I don't want to. There are fears, excitement, enthusiasm. Some people are literally running faster than they've ever run in training right now. And they still have like 80, 100 miles to go. To those people, I want to say, chill out. You got a long path ahead of you. Now, for our athletes who are running the half marathon and marathon distance, all I got to say is, you got to break this down into 3 parts, okay? You got to ease into it, that first third. The second third, you settle in. You make sure you're dialed in on that nutrition, that you are feeling good. And then that last third, the last third of the race, that is where you
let it fly.
You let it fly.
You let it fly.
You let it rip, however you
Yes.
like to say it. It is just, you hold nothing back. You will be uncomfortable, but that finish line is in sight. So break it down into thirds. You are in control of your race. It doesn't matter who's around you right now. Okay, don't look at that guy or that girl that looks fitter than you, okay? And start thinking, oh my gosh, I don't deserve to be here. Wrong. That's the wrong, not strong mindset. You focus on your journey, not who is to your right or to your left or who's ahead or who's behind you. You focus on your journey, 1 foot in front of the other. And I'll tell you what, you are going to surprise yourself when you keep choosing strong every step of the way. And Eddie and I, we're going to be here. We're going to be here for the next hour, maybe 2 hours with you.
We'll be
and
here.
We'll be thinking of you. Now, what do you have to say to the guys that just stepped into the gym, Ed?
Oh, wow.
Some people have slipped into the saddle on the bike. And then we got those that are heading out just for their training run.
I'm thinking it's time to PR on that bench.
I'm thinking that comes from you actually PRing recently in weightlifting, and you are so excited about it because it's gains season, people. It's gain season for Eddie.
Gains.
And we were getting ready to go out the other night, and I see him flexing in the mirror telling me about his workout for the day. He was so proud of himself.
Oh man, that's true. Yeah.
I love it when you get excited about your workouts.
Yeah.
You stand in front of that mirror and you're like, yes.
Who doesn't? Everybody does.
This is coming together quite nicely.
All right. Like how this is shaping up.
Oh my gosh, so good. We had a few people asking about your new goal for the week.
Yeah.
We had one goal that you were working toward, and I know here we are, a new week is upon us.
Yeah.
And any thoughts on what this week is going to be?
Well, I do want to circle back on that because
Circling back.
because
By the way, if you're running, you better not be circling back.
No. Because you were very confident in me the other episode when you're like, you know what? You always set a goal and you find a way to make it happen. And I am here to tell you that I did not succeed in my goal. It was very optimistic and it didn't happen. And you know what? Like you said before, it's always Monday. Start again. Try a new goal.
Monday doesn't wait for your goals, my friend.
Oh, okay.
And I always have a lot of hope and admiration for you because even though you didn't hit the goal each day last week,
Yeah.
you have this massive smile on your face because you've already started in your new goal. So you just don't stop. You're just always like pivoting.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
we started off today with a 3.5 mile walk with our coffee in hand.
Yeah.
We were talking about what our conversation was going to be. on this podcast, which, by the way, still we are not hitting anything that we talked
No.
about on our walk that we would talk
Typical.
about. I'll imagine that. But I will say what I did notice last week is that you were still getting to the gym.
Yeah.
So even though you maybe weren't hitting the exercises you wanted, you got out for a run, you were in the sauna, you were lifting weights, you were going for walks. I mean, the thing is that you're learning and growing along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, my goal was, to recap here, my goal was to run 3 miles every day for 6 days. Didn't happen. So yesterday it was Sunday. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go run 6 miles, kind of make up for those days that I lost those 3 so we can catch up. And so that might be my new goal, to catch up.
Catch up goal?
Yeah, catch up goal.
Is that
That's not
a good
thing.
idea? Have you ever heard a coach say, hey guys, this week is about catching up on where you failed last week. So it's all about the catch up.
I might. Okay, this will be my new goal this week. I think I'm gonna start out. Why are you laughing at it?
Because I'm envisioning you wearing a t-shirt with like a ketchup bottle on it. Ketchup goal.
Okay, so I'm thinking every other day 6 miles. What? What's wrong with that?
Because you're literally right here in the middle of the podcast formulating your idea.
Yeah.
You have
So
all
I
these
ran-
ideas just bubbling out of you.
Okay, here's my ideal week exercise wise.
Remember, listeners, at one point I was coaching Eddie, and he hasn't asked me to continue. Clearly.
Here's my ideal exercise week moving forward. Stop. I'm being serious. All right, so I'm thinking every other day. Stop. Every other day, 6 miles, and okay. What's the funny part about this?
It's the pure joy on your face, like so much hope and excitement, and I feel like so many people can like relate to that because, like,
man.
you know, you're coming back from, okay, I didn't hit my goal, but then you totally redeem yourself. And, like, this is what it's gonna look like, and I love that. I mean, that actually like makes me very happy, and I feel that is so much more true to life. It isn't that you're always like nailing every step in the way that you planned it to be or what you expected to be. It's just that you keep on coming back and trying.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, then I'm going to try this. I'm going to rework this. And I feel like that's actually a more joyful way to move through your goals, because the main vein in all of that is that you're never quitting.
Yeah.
It's never like, that didn't work out, so I'm lame, I shouldn't have tried, I'm not cut out for it. It's like, well, I'm going to try something different this time. And so you just keep on trying something different. But the reality is that you're still making progress.
Yeah.
Just like you did in lifting last week. Like, you didn't run the six or the
days.
3 miles or the 6 days, but you hit some PRs in the weight room. And I thought that's a win.
It's a win. All right, here's my, I'm going to lay it out.
Back to your goal.
Yes. You interrupted. So I'm going every other day 6 miles. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to lift.
Okay.
Okay. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, run 6 miles.
Okay.
Saturday, hey, if I got some time, maybe I'll push it a little more than 6.
Okay.
Sunday, rest day.
Rest day.
Gonna go rest day.
Yeah.
And so
Family day.
starting today, maybe that'll be my new goal. Now, some people yesterday, when I uploaded that run to Strava, which clearly people know if you happen to look for 3 seconds that I did not meet my goal, because it would tell you if I did on there. People were saying, oh, 6 miles, must be training for that 50K.
Ooh, yeah.
Or
Clearly.
Mammoth Trail Fest. And I'm here to tell you that's not what I'm training for. I'm just every other day 6 miles. Let's see where it takes me.
Right?
See where we can go from there, huh?
I wouldn't discount the trail race because we no one ever really knows where you're going.
That's true. I
And
did ask.
suddenly these things spring up that now you're running the LA Marathon.
Well,
So
the lady that asked me about the Mammoth Trail Fest, I said, "Is there a 5K?" And then she responded, "Yeah, there's actually a kids 1K." So hey,
I could see you elbowing children in order to win that too.
hey,
That's
whatever it takes.
if you are
Whatever it
planning on going to
takes.
Mammoth Trail Fest, yes, Eddie and I will be there. Protect your children if you see Eddie at the start line of the 1K, because he's got that competitive streak in him and he does not care.
All right, enough about me. Let's get on with this show here.
I think people love hearing about you, Ed.
I don't think that's correct.
Yes, we released a YouTube this past weekend. If you are not on my YouTube channel, you can subscribe so that you can get the notifications when we release a new episode. But we break down Eddie's marathon in there. You can see a lot of the imagery, the excitement and videos from his race day. So we encourage you to check that out. We will put the link in the show notes for you. It's just a 15-minute little episode, but you're getting everything about our everyday life in there. A very real weekend that we have as a family. We had Isaiah's 16th birthday party in there, Mackenzie racing at the Sound Running Invitational in the mile, and then Eddie's marathon. It's a great episode.
It was fun.
But I don't know why you and I had to review the original edit that Drew Darby did on that episode. And both times you and I could not stop crying, laughing at the end when you have the emergency blanket wrapped around you.
Oh, yeah.
And we step into that guy's buggy on the back of the bike and we get a ride to the car. But if you have watched it already or you're now curious, make sure you do. But maybe you will laugh with us because it's so good.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Nike Trail hat giveaway that we had is sadly,
which I'm wearing.
It's over.
It is over. And it was we had probably well over 1,000, couple thousand entries in that, whether it was through YouTube messages, on Instagram. Some people emailed because not everyone is on Instagram.
Yeah.
That was, you only got to choose 15, but what is so cool is that we then released the pre-order of the yellow hat and the black hat, which that's going to go away here in a day or so. That's just about sold out.
Yep.
But these things are only released a couple times a year. One of the things that I said in my post about this hat is if you see someone wearing a Choose Strong hat, go up and say hi because you immediately have a friend. And there have been many people who have said, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a race or I'm on a trail and right away I feel like I have a friend. And that is one of the most important things to us is that, it's the community aspect of it, reminding each other to choose strong. So the hat giveaway is over. Eddie's going to be mailing those out this week. If you pre-ordered a hat, those should be coming in within the next 5 to 6 weeks. So those take a little bit longer to come in. That's another reason why we can only do the hats a few times a year. But yeah, you should be expecting those in the next 5 to 6 weeks from this podcast.
But those lucky 15 will be able to wear those things by the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
Represent.
Pausing for a quick second to talk to you about Mando and Lumi. I love this stuff. This is a whole body deodorant, which is especially nice for trail runners. When you are out there running for hours on end, whether you've finished a long run or a race, let's get you smelling fresh before you get into the car. So I'm going to talk specifically, Ed, about these deodorant wipes. I love these things. I can wipe down my whole body and then hop in the car. But they also have whole body deodorant sticks. And the way they're putting it here, for pits, privates, and beyond. The Mando ones for the guys, the Lumi ones for the girls. And guess what? We get to get a nice little discount. So the special offer, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code and link. So if you use code Sally at shopmando.com, that's shopmando.com. And if you want some Lumi, use the same code, Sally, at lumideodorant.com. I will put these in the show notes. But what I love about this is created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. And so Mando whole body deodorant, it's powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere, allowing you to put Mando on family jewels without any worry, because Mando is aluminum free, baking soda free, cruelty free, dye free, and vegan. And Eddie, I know as a crew chief, and it's okay to share this, but there have been moments I've come into aid stations where you probably wanted to throw a Lumi deodorant wipe at me. So he's sitting across from me now just laughing. But this is a great gift for that runner in your life, for the crew in your life. Head on over and you will get $5 off the starter pack, which is basically equating to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Sally at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. And for my ladies, use code Sally at lumideodorant.com. This episode of Chew Strong is brought to you by Manukora Honey. And if you have been a listener for any stretch of time, you know how much Eddie and I love honey. So we are very excited about this one. It is getting colder. It is time to think about presents for the people you love, and the miracle of nature just fell on my lap at the perfect time. And that's a rare super honey that is 100% natural and has some unique properties. Manukora makes Manuka honey, a single origin honey that comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tea tree, making honey that is pure, rich, and complex, with a creamier texture that is on a completely different level from the normal honey you find at the supermarket. You can use it as you would any other honey, but what puts the super in Manuka honey is that it's super rich in antioxidants and prebiotics, 3 times more compared to regular honey. On top of that, it contains an antibacterial compound called MGO that can be found exclusively in Manuka honey. The bottom line is that these nutrients really support your optimal immune and digestive health, and it's delicious. This is the perfect way to treat myself with something that is going to keep me strong through the colder months, and the perfect gift for the people I love to keep them sweet and healthy too. The 850 plus honey has this creamy caramel texture that melts in your mouth and is unlike anything I've ever tried. I can grab a spoonful out of a jar, which I've been known to do many a times. I can put it in my favorite beverage or squeeze some honey out on some toast or oatmeal. I personally like honey peanut butter sandwiches. So delicious. If you head to manukora.com/Sally, you can get $25 off their starter kit, which comes with the MGO 850 plus Manuka honey, a free travel pack honey stick, a free wooden spoon, and also a free guidebook. It's the perfect gift for a loved one during this season. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can bring them with you when you're traveling or if you need a quick snack running errands, and they're the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym, especially in this time of year. That's manukora.com/Sally to get $25 off your starter kit. This is just the ultimate honey. Indulge and try some honey with superpowers from Manukora.
All right. So let's, do you have anything else you want to get off your chest here before we move into?
We are only at the beginning of the podcast, so you know me. I'm sure there will be some things that are going to pop up. And for those of you that are running, I hope that you've had a sip of your electrolytes by now and that you know exactly when you're going to be taking in those calories. So you're doing a great job. Keep it up. One foot in front of the other.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to, like I do, I'm going to say some reviews that have come in to give us some love, some true strong podcast love. And all three of them this time are from the Apple Podcast world. First one is from Bree Watsab. I don't know if that's the name, but Bree Watsab says, I listened to Sally and Eddie while running my marathon today. I took a hard fall around mile 15, but they pushed me through. I PR'd my marathon by 20 minutes. And I couldn't have been more happy, especially after falling and injuring my knee. Thank you, Sally and Eddie. P.S. The night before, I watched all of Sally's 200-mile races on YouTube for motivation.
It's super encouraging, and how amazing to have a hard fall. Oof. Falling on your knee is painful. Yeah. Because you can't help but feel that every single step. So, Bree, well done getting back up and still setting a personal best for yourself. That is so exciting. We hope that you have a full recovery soon and that you keep on training hard and setting new goals for yourself.
Yeah. You know what? I just thought of this. Bree falling, I can't imagine in a marathon getting up and pushing forward like that. But I forgot to mention, mile 7 at the marathon, I didn't fall. I didn't fall, but I was taking off my my first layer, and I hit my headphone out of my ear when I was doing that. And, at mile 7, there's still a sea of people. Tons and tons of people. And I'm like, oh, that thing is gone. But some guy that was like, I don't know, 10 people behind me starts yelling, hey, I got your headphone. He like grabbed it. And I had to go back and grab it. And so I don't know why I share that story, but I just thought of it.
That's awesome, because not everyone has that story. It's one of those things where you then see it fall into the gutter and down the sewage drain, it disappears.
Stepped on or whatever.
Disappears forever. But how cool is that someone saw in that moment?
Yeah, and saved my headphones.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
is that the same as hitting the pavement, your body slamming to the ground and injuring your knee, you having an AirPod fall out of your ear?
I totally sympathize with Bree.
No. Bree, I apologize right now. Not the same.
Bree, you're better than I.
An injury and somebody else picking up your AirPod and giving it to you. A little different. One's a little bit easier to rebound from.
All right, moving on here. We have a second Chew Strong podcast love from Apple Podcasts from Kef482. Kef482, the title is Solid Every Time. Very new to the ultra world with only a couple under my belt. I came across Sally's documentaries on YouTube and became an instant fan. Love the authenticity, the humility, vulnerability, and grace that she carries and exhibits. There's not a sport out there with more kind and encouraging players, and Sally is at the top. Thank you.
Oh, very kind. Very, very kind. Thank you so much.
That's
and
awesome.
Notice she said humility. Mm-hmm.
Well, she's obviously not spent a ton of time with you.
And the way I want to highlight that.
Kind of ironic.
Thank you. I am humble.
Oh, wow.
I want to say welcome to the community. I love it when we met somebody face to face who had a friend tell them, oh, you're brand new to the ultra community. You need to check out the Chew Strong podcast, and here's some YouTube videos too. And I thought, man, that's the coolest thing. That's the entry point.
Yeah,
your entry point into the ultra community is to step into the Chew Strong community, and that is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we get excited when we hear people are brand new to the sport, and not even trail running. It's just, some people just started running. Some people have played other sports their whole life, or they haven't done anything in a long time, and they decide, you know what, I'm going to train for a 5K or a 10K. And so I think it's so exciting when you embark on something new. It can be intimidating. It can be scary. You can kind of feel vulnerable and, a little doubtful of yourself. And so when you walk into a community that's like, dude, we're right there with you. It's, it can be really fun and assuring. So welcome to this wonderful community, KEF 482.
Yes. All right. The last one is from Lan, Texas 78. Going out on a limb to think that TX is for Texas in their name. All right. The title is Love It. Love listening to Sally and Eddie on my runs. They immediately make the runs easier and the miles fly by. Such an awesome couple. Pretty sure we'd be friends if we lived close. Also love the fact that I can listen in my car with my 5-year-old. Thank y'all.
That's very cool. We didn't give a shout out to all of our kiddos who have probably already wandered away. But if our youth listeners are still in the car, what is up? Eddie and Sally are saying hello to you. We're so happy that you are here. And Lan, Texas 78, we really appreciate your review. Thanks for listening and letting us join you on your runs. We absolutely love that.
Another hint that it was from Texas is the way Lan finished that. Said thank y'all.
Oh, okay.
It's gotta, right?
Yeah.
It's gotta be a Texas.
Thank y'all.
And if we lived closer, we would be friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is our friend on
It's true.
In this community. I love it.
Would you be up for moving to Texas?
I mean, every time I go to Austin, I'm like, I could see myself here.
Yeah.
They've got a great running community.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that I would miss is the large body of water and mountains.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to, it's only because that's what I've always known my whole life. And, I think everyone, depending on where you grow up in the country, there's just something about home. So,
Sure.
Whether you grow up with fields all around you and lots of land and hillsides, or if you grew up on a lake or a river, there's just something about that wherever, when you move away from that, you kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And when we lived in Bend, we were right on the river.
Yep.
And the mountain was 15 minutes away, giant mountain, Mount Bachelor. And I think that's what made it easy for us to live there.
Yeah.
But Texas, it's, they got Lady Bird Lake, which is so fun to run around. It's their running community stellar. You can always find somebody to run with.
Yeah.
But I think I would miss just getting out the door and, like yesterday, I was able to do 21 miles and, almost 4,000 feet of climbing. That was like 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
So that would maybe be the only difficult part, but love Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I watched 3 episodes of Fixer Upper last night.
Oh, you did?
So this Texas thing.
Okay.
Is just,
the Gaines couple who have just really highlighted Texas over the years. I mean, I think people make it a vacation, a point of vacation now to go out to
Magnolia Farms.
Yep, Magnolia Farms.
Yep.
I mean, some of my close girlfriends.
Yeah.
They've done girls' weekends away.
Well, they do a good job of highlighting Texas. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah.
And making shiplap the most famous raw material in the world.
Shiplap for the win. All right. Well, Lan, Texas 78. Maybe one of these days we'll be neighbors. Never know.
You never know.
You never know, Sally. She's always got these crazy ideas. And hey.
I met a friend on the trails yesterday. He was bombing down the side of this very steep descent, technical descent, and he came to a screeching halt. He's like, Sally! And, from the Choose Strong community.
Oh, yeah.
He just moved from Colorado.
Nice.
They got a spot right there near the ocean. And,
nice.
He made the big move.
Yeah.
The big out of state move. But it was so cool. I'm working up the climb. He's bombing down on his bike. And I thought I love this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that we're on the trails together and we get to connect. But we talked about moving, different
really?
spots. Yeah, because they actually also got a spot up in Big Bear.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, I know that you love the ocean,
Best of
love the
both
mountains.
worlds.
You got best of both. You got best of both worlds.
That's cool. Okay, moving on. We're going to highlight a couple of the Chew Strong listeners. And this one is from Carolyn. She sent a message in from Instagram. And she said, I just wanted to shoot you a DM letting you know how much I love your podcast. I ran my first marathon today. I got sick on Thursday with a stomach bug, and honestly, I haven't been that sick in years. I decided to still run today to see what happens. I didn't hit my goal, but I finished. And when those hardest miles crept up on me, having you guys in my ear had a big part in what kept me pushing. Hashtag Chew Strong. Carolyn, well done. Choosing strong mind, pushing through, being sick. That's tough, right? Like right before you've been training for so long and getting ready, and a few days before you get sick. That's not it's not fun. But she decided to get out there and go out there anyways. How would you talk to Carolyn, Sal, that she didn't hit her goal, even though she finished? She was stoked on that.
Yeah, I mean, today's podcast is about problem solving.
Yeah,
problem solving in the race. Like we always like to do, there's the parallel to life in this as well. I think much of our life is learning how to problem solve, learning how to be flexible, how to bend, how to, discover a hack on how to, get through a tough situation. And I've had so many situations where I have been sick and chosen to still stand at the start line.
Yep.
Not always a good idea. And that's something that I am constantly figuring out because, when it comes down to it, no one can feel your body except you.
Right.
And we all respond to discomfort and illnesses in a different way. Our immune systems are all different too. I always try to be really sensitive to that. So if someone says I'm sick, I can't immediately think, oh, they're sick. And well, when I'm sick, we all have different responses to all different types of illnesses. Our symptoms are different. The way our body fights it is different. There's a lot of variables that go into how we get sick and how we recover from it. And I've spoken about this a couple times in different podcasts because it's very rare that I do get sick. And so because of that, and I paid the price, but I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like I never get sick. And so this isn't a big deal. Like it's not that bad. Whereas like if I was someone who was more prone to getting sick and I was sick all the time, I would probably know how to better take care of myself and know like, okay, this usually lasts this long and I need to do this. And so, running Tahoe 200 last year was a classic example. I had a little bit of a cold the week leading up to it. I didn't really think much of it at all. I mean, I actually even thought it was part of race jitters, because sometimes the week of a race, it's like suddenly my calves are tight, suddenly my belly hurts, suddenly. And so I really discounted it. Obviously a terrible thing to do because the race was in the dead heat of the summer and we're climbing up into altitude. So those two things, altitude and extreme heat, and then me trying to race and put my body into a max effort, actually made me extremely sick. And I had a much longer race to work through all of that, which I think is another factor that you have to consider. All of our variables are so different when we line up at a start line. Are you doing a 5K and trying to, run at a 9-10% RPE the entire time and PR while you have strep throat? Like, okay, we got to reconsider the goals there. Are you doing a 100-mile race, a 50-mile race? There's so many factors that go into just the distance and the time on your feet. But, I learned my lesson at Tahoe and, had to really connect with my body. And I had to work through a lot of very uncomfortable hours. I think there was over 24 hours where I wasn't able to get anything in. And somehow figured out how to keep moving. And it's in those situations too, I think it's important for listeners to understand putting yourself into an extreme state and choosing to push through that, like as much effort as you can give. You have to remember there is going to be a recovery that is necessary and needed to come back from that. So if you're already sick and then you're asking your body to, you know, perform at maximum effort, you are now elongating your recovery, which that's what happened to me after Tahoe, and I continued to get sick.
Right.
That's why you don't really see a film on Bigfoot. It was almost an extension of Tahoe.
Yeah.
I mean, our film crew wasn't there either, but people always ask about what happened at Bigfoot, and it was like, well, I should just show you pictures of what I looked like. But I learned. And that's the only way sometimes that we are going to understand what we're capable of and what is healthy and what is worth it. You know, if you've trained for 6 months in order to run a sub 4-hour marathon, and 2 weeks before you come down with strep throat and there's no training being done and you just feel terrible and your body's beaten up, only you can make that decision as to what you should and shouldn't do. And I don't think it's anybody's business if you decide, like, you know what, I'm going to sign up for a different marathon like in a month because this goal is really important to me and that's what I'm training for. Whereas other people are like, this race is important to me and I want to run it with my best friend. And so, yeah, probably going to run a lot slower, but like, I want this experience with my best friend. And so I think that the discomfort, being sick, getting injured, that's very personal to you. And it's okay to own that. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't think that, oh, well, he pushed through that, I must be a weakling because I can't push through it. No. Because we actually don't know the ins and outs 100% of how that person is feeling or how many times they've been through that or what their goals are or what matters to them in that. It's very separate from you. And so when you come across things like this, first make it personal to you. You don't have to operate the way everyone else does. And so I think being sick at the start line, obviously we don't want to further beat ourselves up, but you know, I always like to kind of go through the list of things. Like, if I am sick, is this something that's like horribly contagious? Am I in a bad state? Should I be in bed? Or is this like, okay, I have, you know, my sinuses are congested. I know you've been in this state before too. You're like, am I sick or is it allergies? You know? And it's like, then it's like, oh, that's actually allergies. So yeah, you have to go through the list and say, all right, what's important to me? What is my main goal? And then ask yourself this very telling question: will I be happy if my main focus is getting across the finish line? Will I still be proud of that? And if you say no, don't do the race. Why beat yourself up? I can't believe how many times adults, not just children, will say this, but they really think they have to live up to some expectation, whether it's people on social media. Like, well, all my followers will be so disappointed because I told them about this race I was, you know, training for, and I shared my journey. No. You're not. You should not be setting goals to impress followers. Right. You should not be setting goals because you want a positive comment or a like or some type of feedback. You will be forever empty if you do that. That is not fulfilling. And you will start to lose the joy in what it is that you're doing. So remember, the goal that you're going toward is about what you want to accomplish, not how you're trying to impress people. And so it's your journey, it's your story to tell, and you get to be the author of that. And if things need to change, then change it up. But be proud of yourself. Be proud of all the hard work that you put in. Be okay with pivoting in order to reach that goal. That's more true to life than anything. Not all of us get the smooth pass. Every single week is amazing training. You know, you get to the start line, you achieve the exact goal you wanted to. I mean, come on. That is a rare story.
Yep. All right, Carolyn, well done. Way to push through, get that marathon done. We're proud of you, and thanks for listening to us as you were doing it. All right. The next one is Melissa Ammo from the Facebook group, Strong Body. She said this. She said, I just PR'd my 50K by 1 hour.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
I can't even believe it. I had so much help from Sally and Eddie as I listened to them for the whole 7.5 hours.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
In each podcast, there are words of encouragement, laughs, and heartfelt love from them. It helped to push me through some tough spots. Thanks, guys. Now I'm wondering why I didn't take tomorrow off from work, because walking is currently a form of torture. But like all ultra runners, I'm a sucker for pain and suffering.
Oh,
Melissa, well done.
well done.
PR to 50K by an hour. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's solid. Solid right there.
And again, 7.5 hours of Eddie and Sally is torture.
I mean, I can do 7.5 hours with you, babe.
Okay.
Any day.
All right. Moving on to the next one is from Instagram. If you don't follow the Instagram Choose Strong podcast, you should do that. And you can catch all sorts of great clips that Sally says, and we post them, from quotes to what else do we put on there? The when the episodes go live, but also a chance to connect with us and tell us great things like this one here. I'm not going to say this person's name because I'm going to keep it confidential, just because I didn't get permission. So, and I'm sure it's okay to share, but I'm not going to share the name. Anyways, hi, Ed and Sally. My name is blank, and I'm a student athlete, soon to be graduate at Cornell University. During these past couple of years, as I came to terms with the fact that I wouldn't be playing basketball forever, I've been leaning heavily into running and lifting. I just wanted to say that listening to your podcast, watching your YouTube videos, and reading Sally's book has been an absolute honor. I'm so beyond inspired by y'all. When I was 6 years old, I lost my dad to mental health issues, and growing up with a mom that would work 60 hours a week to put food on the table for her 5 kids was tough. I've lived through struggles and found growth in every one of them. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for inspiring people around the world, such as myself. Thanks to you, I wake up every day ready to stand and choose strong. I can't say thank you enough. Y'all are my heroes. Yeah, that was very sweet.
Yeah, very touching.
Yes, I want to congratulate this person by almost graduating college. Big time.
Cornell?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude, that is a legit school, and I think the sharing the story of losing a parent is at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
That's very hard.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this kid is making a life for himself or herself.
Mm-hmm.
And we are so happy that you are here. You're part of the community, and Eddie and I are rooting for you. You have your whole life ahead of you, which is so exciting. And we hope that you have fun on your running journey.
Yes.
Eddie and I, we were soccer players in college, and I think we had to come to terms. We're like, wait, we're not going to be playing soccer our whole entire lives.
Yep.
And at some point in both of our journeys, we found running and racing in the way that we love it. So enjoy that. Enjoy the discovery of it.
Yes, and thank you for writing that, and we're proud of you. All right, last one is from the Facebook group. This is from Michael Wind. He has a picture of himself holding his medal.
Let's go.
He's got a DTW shirt on in front
go.
of a big fountain. He says, completed my next goal race, and I ran the whole 10K. I set some personal records, so I'm very happy. Do the work.
I love that.
Heck yeah, Michael.
So exciting.
Nice work. Strong body right there. All right, Sal, that is all that I have. I know I honestly, seriously, I had so many of this things to highlight because people are racing and training and going through all sorts of things. And I honestly had so many that I had to really limit them. And we'll share some next time. But man, there's a lot of cool things happening from the listeners that are doing cool things, that are pushing through, choosing strong, and it's cool to highlight them.
Well, I have noted that we are inching towards 10,000 members in our Choose Strong community on the Facebook page. So if you are not in that page yet, please make your way over to there. You have to be approved to get in. So sometimes it takes a couple days before you're approved. I know not everyone is a fan of Facebook. I've said this a few times. You don't need to be an active Facebook person. So you can literally come up with a random profile that's just for the sole purpose of being in that page and connecting with the community. And it is super encouraging. I spent some time in it a couple days ago. I love just seeing how people encourage each other they're helping each other. They're meeting up at races. They're seeing each other on the trails. And yeah, I think when people share their stories and, in their races and their journeys, I mean, it encourages everyone. So the Choose Strong community isn't about Eddie and Sally. It's about us on this journey to be the best we can be in life together through the ups and the downs, and knowing that choosing strong each day is the best way to proceed. So I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the one that we talked about. Remember where she was volunteering, I think, at one of the like check-ins for either the marathon or an ultra, I can't remember. And a guy had a yellow hat on, and she called him over and they started chatting, and then she took a picture and then posted it to the group saying, he's one of us, that's that kind of,
let's all cheer for him.
Yeah.
I loved that.
I thought that was neat.
I took note of that. We wanted to podcast today on problem solving, mainly because this is racing season. And usually once we hit spring to summer is the busiest racing season of the year, both in road and in ultra. Obviously a big part of it has to do with the nicer weather. So races are a little bit more successful than our wintry, snowy, freezing, cold races, especially on the trails, where a lot of our trails are covered in snow in the earlier months of the year. But once that snow starts melting away, temperatures start to warm up, we're seeing those flowers bloom, we know racing season is upon us. And to many of our listeners right now who have a race in mind, who are gearing up to race in the coming weeks, or you are literally racing right now, Eddie and I are very in tune with that, and we are so excited for you guys. We have conversations every week about what you guys are doing, whether it's your first 10K, your first marathon, your first 100-mile. And so I thought, why don't I do a podcast on problem solving? Because when I entered into the sport, there was a lot of unknowns and situations that I got into in the world of ultras that I'd never been in my life. Even though I had been an athlete, a competitive athlete, pretty much for most of my life at the point of entering ultra, I hadn't been in a lot of these situations, and they genuinely scared me. And now that I have had a long career in the sport, I look back and I'm like, wow, yeah, I definitely would have reacted differently had I known what I know today. Now, do you see the parallel in life already about what I'm saying? We grow in wisdom and knowledge the older we get. This is that idea of sitting down with mentors that are older than us. One of the reasons why we go to people that are older than us, whether it's you're becoming a parent, you're graduating from college, you're in the middle of a business deal, and you need a mentor to help you through those things. You want to talk to people that have had experience, they have knowledge. I mean, experience is like one of our greatest teachers. You don't really know how to go through something unless you experience it. And we spoke about this in a previous podcast. You're not going to know unless you try. And so there's nothing to be afraid of. You might fail, you might succeed, it might blow up in your face, but that experience is forever going to be a golden piece of education for you that you will forever use. And so for anyone that is brand new in running, in endurance running, if you're brand new to ultra, yes, I'm going to talk about some very practical tips and solutions to some common problems that you encounter in a race. But I want you to listen closely, because I am always talking about life. You can apply these things to your life, and they're going to help you in whatever it is that you're working toward right now. Eddie and I are very aware that not everyone that listens to our podcast is a runner, and we want to make sure that you understand that you don't have to run to listen to this podcast and to get something out of it. But our goal is just to use that as the parallel to life. But I am very much going to talk about running today. I'm going to talk about things that you can apply to your training and your racing. And when you encounter these situations, here is what has helped me. So here we go. Let's dive in. We've all been there before. The race starts, we're feeling good. Your long training run starts, you're feeling amazing. Maybe you are feeling the benefits of your hard training, and bam, you are hit with a problem. Maybe it's a hot spot on the bottom of your foot. that old nagging injury from a year ago suddenly decides to ache again. Maybe the day is hotter than you expected, and not only have you run out of water on the trail, but just the thought of eating makes you nauseous. Maybe your well-planned nutrition isn't working. You can't keep anything down. Your thighs start chafing, or areas you didn't think were possible to chafe start chafing. Maybe it's your first ultra, and you were depending on your crew to be at mile 15, and unbeknownst to you, they have a flat tire, and guess what? They're not getting to you anytime soon. All right, are we following along here? Problems, setbacks, challenges, discomfort, unwelcome surprises, whatever you want to call them. We have all experienced them. Now, Eddie, we got to see you experience a handful of these in your journey to your first marathon, as well as in your race.
Yep.
So, you're running right alongside us right now.
Oh yeah, I feel ya right now. Yes, I do.
You said that after you ran the marathon, as we were walking back to the car.
What did I say?
You gained a whole new level of empathy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Are you talking about like when
the discomfort?
Oh
what
yeah, the
people work
discomfort.
through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the things that I felt in my legs that I've never felt before. Like I'm like, what is going? Like I've never had an issue ever in that area of my leg, and then pushing through that. But people all around me were doing the same thing, So, you're going through 26 miles on the road, pounding, and when you're out there for a long time, I definitely found a massive empathy. I don't know, a deeper empathy for people for sure.
One of the things that I really appreciated about Jason Koop's episode was how he has, throughout his 30 years of coaching career, purposely signed up for events simply to have that capacity for compassion and empathy for his athletes.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's done everything from Tour de Jants to Badwater 135. He's done extreme bike races up in Leadville. He's tried so many different things because he wants to be able to sit next to an athlete and say, I understand.
That's cool.
And he wants to know that he can have a good word for them and have it be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of you that are working through your race right now, you're working through training, remember that what you do in life isn't always just for you.
Mm-hmm.
You working through a problem, working through a setback, a challenge, remember that even if it doesn't go well for you, even if it's uncomfortable, if it's painful, it breaks your heart, know that it's not for nothing. There is value in those challenges, in those problems, because once you've gotten through it, which you 100% will, think about every problem you've had in your life in the past, you're still here.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten through 100% of your problems in life, 100% of those letdowns and heartaches. You're still here. And they are not to be buried. What you go through in life is not meant to be hidden. It can absolutely help and encourage somebody else. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to share with you guys some of the things from my early years as a trail runner. When I was in it, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm so happy I went through that because I'm going to use it someday down the road to encourage someone. No, I don't want to be in any of those situations. I want it to go smoothly. I want it to feel good. I want to feel strong. I want to accomplish all that I set out to do. But if I can take a step back every now and then and realize that the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful, the sad things, it all makes up a full life.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it is in vain. Even the very purposeful bad mistakes and decisions that I make, I can still grow and learn and turn things around within those. Mm-hmm. And so I want you to just, pause with me for a minute. I want you to think back, listeners, think back to an issue that you've had in a race or like in your everyday training. Not all of us are training for a race. And I want you to zero in on how you felt in that problem, in that setback or that discomfort. Zero in, think back to how you felt More importantly, what was going through your head? If you can, maybe it has to be a more recent thing. How did you immediately respond? What was your immediate self-talk? Because I am going to speak on a practical level where you can take action and physically take care of some of these problems. But your mental game is the most powerful tool in all of these situations. And I'm going to come back to that. Okay. So you have your experience in your head, right? You're remembering. Now, I'm going to share with you my first ultra in 2010 was the American River 50 up here in northern California, very close to the Western States Trail. Part of it is on the Western States Trail. And a 50-mile race, first time ever covering that distance. The furthest I had ever been at that time was 31 miles. My kids were 2 and 4 when I ran that race. Brand new in every way. All the experiences, everything that I was going through was brand new. Now, I didn't understand how to fuel. I didn't understand that starting with a bottle of electrolytes and carbs was not going to be sufficient enough to carry me all the way to the 50 miles. I needed multiple bottles all throughout. But I knew that I could like eat certain things at aid stations. So my goal was like, I'll finish off these bottles and then I'll just kind of maybe eat stuff at aid stations. I did not pay attention to electrolytes, sodium, magnesium, potassium. That was nothing I'd ever done in the past. And I'd done a handful of road marathons, but now here I am, I'm out there for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. I think I did that race like in 7 hours and 40 minutes, something like that. But I get to mile 30 and my lower legs completely seize on me. The worst cramping I've ever felt in my life. In fact, it scared me. I yelped. I yelled out on the trail, dropped to the ground. I had just left an aid station, probably like 100 yards before that. And thankfully, a very kind man by the name of John Blue, I'll never forget him, came running back on the trail and asked, "Are you okay?" And I shared with him, I was like, my legs are cramping. I've never had this happen before. I don't know what to do. And do I need to stretch him? And he's like, when was the last time you had salt? And I looked at him sideways, like, what? Like I wasn't carrying salt tabs with me. And so he immediately gave me salt and he said, go back to the aid station. This will be helpful. And you don't ever think of going back on a course.
Yeah.
Going back, like, why would I do that? But he was a well-seasoned runner.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that instead of trying to go another 7-8 miles to the next aid station, you're so close to this is going to help you immediately in order to move forward. So do you see what's going on there? We take a couple steps back in order to move forward. Mm-hmm. So I went back to the aid station and he's like, dip a potato in some salt. That's a really common thing to have at aid stations and ultras. They'll have a big bowl of boiled potatoes so they're soft. And then they'll have a big bowl of salt. And you can grab a potato, dip it in the salt, no double dipping, and you can take that in, and that combo is great. There's a good mix of iron and potassium and sodium, and you're getting some calories in there. You're getting a fuel source that's very kind to your intestines. It's very bland food. So potatoes are always great in an ultra if your stomach isn't feeling good. So I did that. I learned right then and there on the trail with these cramps, these terrible cramps, my legs seizing up, that I needed for my next race, if I was going to do another race, I needed to pay attention to electrolytes, sodium, and my calorie intake. My overall calorie, carb intake, sodium intake, that was something I didn't understand. I didn't understand that, hey, you can break it down by every hour, you can break it down by every 30 minutes, and that's what's going to keep you going. And, it's very hard to be on top of your calories the longer that you're running. So always make sure that is a focus. So I learned a lot in that one race, and, going backwards on the course in order to help me move forward was my best plan of action. But I'm going to give you guys some practical tips right here, just when it comes to cramps, because this is a very common thing for all of us. And it isn't just for ultra runners. We see people cramp up all the time in road marathons. Eddie, in the LA Marathon, we saw that, especially in the final miles. Yep. It was the weather started to warm up. Mm-hmm. People are pounding on the cement, and then they have these hills at the end. And so here's why we cramp. And cramping can't always be pinpointed, unfortunately. There are many reasons why a runner will cramp in a race. And so here are some major reasons, and you should consider them all. So you have low carb, low calorie. So you're in a deficit. Your body is screaming for fuel in order to keep those muscles moving. So if you are in a deficit, it's going to start to cramp up. It's going to start to seize. Your muscles aren't going to be working great. You have a sodium imbalance. So sometimes you don't have enough sodium, you have too much. Your body's going to respond sometimes to vomiting, but sometimes cramping is a way that it responds to that. You are stressing the body too hard, too fast. So you can be fit, but let's say that you don't stick to your plan. You don't stick to like ease into the race, settle into the race, push hard. You are just redlining from the start. You're trying to push way faster than you ever did a tempo run or an interval for a longer duration. And your body starts to break down. It starts seizing, like this is too much, too fast. And sometimes that also is you push too hard, too fast in a race, and you're not keeping up with the calorie intake for as much as you're pushing. So those two, you have to remember, have to go hand in hand. The more you're demanding of your body, think of it this way. Think of yourself as a car. And so if you have a quarter tank and you want to go 100 miles from point A to point B, but you want to go 90 miles an hour, you're asking your car to do a lot, and you only got a quarter tank of gasoline. So you are stressing out the engine. The other reason why we cramp is our muscles are either undertrained or they have this inability to handle the sudden intensity. So you could have put together a 12, 16, 20-week training plan, but if you didn't have like the cumulative stress, you didn't have like consistent discipline training where you were constantly building and allowing your body to adjust to the new stresses every week, and then you had a good recovery and then you built again, it can be difficult in a race when suddenly you're asking it to do all of this stressful running, and maybe that didn't match with how you trained for it. And then there is your external factors. Heat is a very common reason why people cramp in a race. So heat, altitude, exhaustion, extreme temperatures, your body will absolutely cramp up. Long climbs in the same position. So you can be really fit, but maybe you never had access to certain sections on the race that you're running. Let's say, you might live in the city, but your race has a 4-mile climb that literally that's going to take you an hour, some people 2.5 hours. So if your body is like, we've never done this before, I'm not sure I can do this, it can start cramping, but not to fear. Here's the thing. We go through a lot of races in our running journey where, you can't always get on a race course and train. You can't always be in the exact weather, temperature, and the exact situation of a race. I love trying to assimilate as much as possible before a race, all the little things. That's why I say study the race course, look at the elevation profile, look at the historical weather on that weekend. What is it usually like? Look at how far apart the aid stations are. How often are you actually able to refuel and restock your pack? And this goes for half marathons and marathons. Look at what they're offering out on the aid stations. Is it one aid station out of the entire half marathon that you're gonna be able to get fuel? You might need to carry some with you. So here's some solutions. If you start cramping, the absolute best thing that you can do is slow down. Just start walking. And I know this isn't anything that anybody wants to do, but if you slow down, come up with a very concentrated time frame in which you're going to walk. So it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Tell yourself that, okay, I'm going to look at my watch. I'm going to walk for the next 5-10 minutes. During that time, try to relax, take deep breaths, and start sipping some electrolytes. If you're nauseous too, do your best to maybe nibble on something that's bland. If you're in an aid station, relax and slow down. This many times will actually solve many issues that your body is having, right down to intestinal, to nauseous, dizzy. Slow down. Yes, you're going to get passed. Okay. People will pass you at this point. And this is why people don't want to slow down. They start to get anxious. They get stressed out. They feel, a little upset. Like, hey, I trained for this race. I don't like getting passed. And that has nothing to do with whether or not you're racing. So whether you're racing to the podium or you're middle pack or back of pack, getting passed isn't fun. So you're going to get passed. Embrace that. You're going to lose position. That's okay, because the goal here is to keep moving forward. But you're not going to be able to move forward well if you're totally cramping. You're going to find yourself sitting on the side of the trail or in an aid station. So we don't want to do that. Now breathe. Let your body know that you're taking care of it. Keep eating, keep drinking. If you're racing an ultra, you typically have a lot of highs and lows like this and lots of time to turn things around. So even if you get past at mile 21, you can turn things around and like be flying totally strong at mile 35. That's the beauty of an ultra. So in cramping, don't be afraid of it. Your race isn't over, but there's a lot of variables you need to look at. And if you are now with your crew, and these are things you can even educate your crew on beforehand. If you come in and you're like, dude, my calves are cramping big time. Your crew can then ask these very specific questions. Well, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you drank your electrolytes? Or how many salt tabs have you been taking? What is your pace like? How much climbing? Like, kind of go through the whole gamut of things, but get yourself to keep moving. Just take the intensity away, slow down. You're going to be okay. Let's move on to vomiting, nausea, and dizziness. Now, Eddie, you were my crew chief for all of the 200s. How many times do you think I experienced those things in the Grand Slam?
Oh man. A lot. I don't know. I mean,
every race.
Yeah.
Every race.
Just so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just common,
This is something that scares people though. I think it scares crew too. If their runner comes in and they are dizzy and vomiting, the first thing is like, especially if you're brand new to the sport in your crew. I mean, I've seen family cry. Yeah. I've been with family members that are like, oh my gosh, they shouldn't be out there. They're vomiting. And it is because that's normal, not in everyday life. You don't see people going to the gym and they're vomiting. They're not down on your local park path, like vomiting while they're running. It isn't a common thing. And so when people see somebody's body revolting in a race, they immediately think of the worst thing. So I want to break this down to our listeners, especially our new runners, and those that are even embarking on 100-mile distance or 100K. 100Ks are, those are, you're out there for a long time, 100Ks too. 200 milers. We're going to break this down, but we can agree, Eddie, that you have seen me at my worst in the vomiting.
Yes, I have.
Nausea, dizziness.
Yep.
But before I start sharing some of these stories, what was always your first response and why?
Well, I think for me, I have a different perspective just because you have been doing this for so long that I know your body so well, and you are, I just, if you were new to the sport, and obviously I'm fairly new to just crewing, so it would be like, I would be more concerned, more worried. But because you've done this for so long, I knew that you knew, I think I've said this before, you know when to throw in the towel, right? Like you know when you're like, okay, something's not right, versus this is something I need to push through and fight through. So I guess, I don't know if I'd be the best example in terms of how to respond to that, just because I trusted your judgment on yourself so much that I just kind of defaulted to that. Rather than like being in the driver's seat and like, I need to make a decision. I didn't really need to do that, but I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
That's helpful to our listeners. I actually want to highlight that. And this is why I feel you make such a great crew chief, because you know me really well. And I was very aware of that. it's easy to have just like you can kind of, people grab strangers all the time to crew and pace. I mean, that's common in the ultra community. People will get on the races Facebook page and be like, hey, I'm available for crewing and pacing. I love that.
Yeah.
I've taken advantage of that many times in my career. The thing that you have to do, though, if you have a new friend or just a very caring, selfless person from the ultra community that wants to serve you in your race and help you get to the finish line, you have to have a meeting with that person and break down your goals. Mm-hmm. You also have to be vulnerable enough to share your weaknesses. So if you are someone that doesn't matter, you get nauseous all the time in races, you have to let your team know that. Mm-hmm. Say, hey guys, like, it is really hard for me past 6 hours of anything I do to keep nutrition down. So if I come in and I'm like vomiting everywhere, like, don't be afraid. I've done this before, or this is what I need to do. I'll need to sit for 20 minutes. I'll need to kind of do this, but like, I don't want you to think that my race is over. Like, we have to keep the energy high. We have to stay positive. We have to find the solution in that moment. So I'm going to share a story right now, because there are two sides to it. There are signs of when you should have great concern and when you are actually putting your health at risk, where, okay, this isn't worth it. I've talked many times about like rhabdo, or, there's something like, okay, we're having problems with our kidneys. Like if you are vomiting blood or you're peeing Coca-Cola, like, that isn't about you being strong or weak, or, there's something that you're not capable of doing. No, you're a human being, and that happens to the most well-trained athletes. And so I actually had a great conversation with Jason Koop about that, about rhabdo, when he was in a race. It was like over a decade ago. But you have to be good to your body so that you can do what you love for the longevity of your life. And so these races don't define you forever. But you can't let a pitfall, a downfall, a setback that's super serious take away the sport from you forever too. So, people end up in the hospital in rhabdo. There's some horrible outcomes that can happen as a result of that. So I think when it comes to the vomiting and the nausea and the dizziness, like you want to be able to learn how to assess yourself and also kind of walk yourself through, okay, why is this happening? So, personally, I've experienced this throughout my entire career. We saw it in every single race in the 200s. I am now at a point in my career where it doesn't faze me. I'm not like, if I start vomiting, I'm not afraid. I mean, I have been known to be running and vomiting at the same time, and I just carry on because it's what I know is that many times it's a response that my body's like, hey, what you just ate, not a good idea. So we need to get rid of it.
When you were starting out, like, did it freak you out? Like when it first happened?
So that's the story I'm going to tell. It's my third 50-mile race. This was actually 5 weeks after I did PCT 50. So I did American River 50 in April. I did PCT 50 in May. And then like a couple weeks later, or a week later, I did High Bishop Sierra 50. So within 5-6 weeks, I did 3 50-milers. Gosh, does this sound familiar about my career? Let's just pile it all on, Sally. Pile it on. Let's see what happens.
There's a free weekend next week. Yeah, let's do a 50-miler.
So my third 50-mile race was Bishop High Sierra, and this happened to me. So the Bishop High Sierra, it's in the Eastern Sierra. It's a race at altitude. I actually was registered for the 100K, not the 50-mile. So this is part of the story here. And I had to drop down to the 50-mile race because I thought it would be a great idea to eat cheesy potato soup at mile 25. It was a hot day. Like I said, we were at altitude. I still was very much learning this distance, about ultras, how to pace, how to do my nutrition. I'd go to these races. I really didn't know many people. I think I knew one or maybe two people at the Bishop High Sierra. I'd met my friend Josh Spector. He was pacing Billy Yang at PCT 50. And Billy said, hey, Josh is going to the race that you're doing next week. Make sure you say hi to him. So that's like, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know. I was brand new in every possible way. Well, shortly after eating that cheesy potato soup at mile 25, I started vomiting. And I felt really sick. I was dizzy. And I immediately decided to drop down to the 50-mile distance. Not all races have that option. I love it when races do. You know, sometimes if a race offers 3-4 distances within a race, you hit a point on the trail where it says, hey, if you're going to drop down, this is the point that you have to drop down. Do it now, or else you're in no man's land and you have to keep on continuing on the course until you get to the finish line. Well, as soon as I saw that sign, I thought, hey, I'm vomiting. And I was genuinely frightened. So American River 50, I'm cramping. That scared me. I'm yelping out on the trail. Someone help me. I don't know what to do. I've never been in this situation. Also, American River 50 was the first time I actually ran fully on trails. I've shared before that I was frightened to run on trails in the beginning of my career. I was very afraid of animals. I was afraid of just being out there as a woman all alone. I mean, I worked through so many things. A lot of the fears that people write in about, I'm like, I know exactly what you're feeling. I've been there too. So vomiting was scary to me. That's not something that was ever common in my life. You know, as I said, it's very rarely that I get sick. So those few times I got sick and got the flu and I would throw up, I hated throwing up. So now I'm out here in the Eastern Sierra on mountain trails and I'm vomiting by myself. And I just think, I'm going to die. There's no way I'm making it to the finish line. I still have, over 30 miles to go for this 100K. 100K is, anywhere between 60 and 62 miles, depending on the race course, but it's roughly that. So because I was afraid and I'd never been in that situation, I had never been in that type of discomfort. I had never felt that. I was kind of terrified of being out in the mountains. There wasn't hundreds and thousands of people in this race, so you don't see a lot of people. And so I saw that sign. I came upon the sign that said, if you're going to, 50-mile runners go this way, 100K runners go this way. If you're going to drop down to the 50-mile, all you'd do is just tell the person. It was at an aid station. So you just tell the aid station captain, they radio down and say, hey, Sally is now moved from the 100K distance. She's now a 50-mile race runner. And so be on the lookout for her. So I immediately responded by dropping down in the distance to get to the finish line. Now, there's nothing wrong with dropping down in a distance, but what I was setting myself up for in that moment was thinking that when things don't go my way, I'm going to bail on my original goal. And physical discomfort is common for all humans. But I'll tell you what, I like being comfortable. I know that we have a lot of content out there about me being uncomfortable and pushing through extreme discomfort, but that doesn't mean I don't like being comfortable, and I'm going to do anything I can to get comfortable. And that's what that race was for me. I need to get comfortable. I need to be okay. I need to assure myself that I can get to the finish line. I don't know what I'm doing, and this is scary. Welcome to being a newbie.
Yeah.
Welcome to being an amateur. Welcome to being human. And so I just want to lovingly encourage those of you that have been in this situation and you're trying to work through that. It's very, very normal. But I didn't take the time to work through it. I didn't take any time at all. I just took the time. It was immediate, get comfortable, and let's get back to that finish line. And I didn't have the experience to understand how to problem solve. Now I do. But I would not have all these tools in my toolbox had I not put myself in these situations in the first place. So signing up for an ultra is scary. Signing up for a distance that you've never covered in your life, that already you don't know if you could cover, and then having these setbacks on top of it is a really good way to think, I'm not made out for this. Oh man, I'm so dumb. Why did I sign up for this race? Look at, I'm vomiting everywhere. I'm afraid. I feel like a fraidy cat. And there's runners now passing me and they look strong and they look like they're having fun. And it's easy to feel just ashamed and embarrassed. And I did. I was kind of embarrassed that my third race, I'm already dropping down and I'm vomiting. So I want to go ahead and just give you guys some solutions for the vomiting, nausea, and dizziness. Because first and foremost, very, very common and normal in a race. All three of those. Some people only have nausea where they're just like, wow, I'm not vomiting, but I just feel sick and it's making it really difficult to get any calories down. Other people, because they can't get the calories down, then they feel dizzy because they're trying to ask their body to do something, and they're using every type of fuel possible that's left in their body, and now it's making them dizzy. And then others are just going to have a lot of vomiting. So light cramping, if you feel sick or dizzy, immediately slow down and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to walk slowly for 10 minutes. I'm going to sip some water, maybe try and sip something, even if your body doesn't want it. Many times with nausea, you are dehydrated. And if you have been vomiting, you absolutely 100% are dehydrated. So you got to get your body back on track. So sipping some water, some type of electrolyte drink is going to work wonders for you. If you are okay with getting an ultra hydrator in. So there is a lot of powdered drinks out there, a lot of electrolyte drinks out there that have ultra hydrators. They might have like 1,000 milligrams of sodium. I know when I did Tahoe 200, that's actually what got me out of the aid station. Mm-hmm. They gave me an ultra hydrating drink. It had 1,000 milligrams. They put that into a liter of water, and that really helped me move out of the aid station. Because I could still barely, I think I maybe had like a M&M or something like that. But I really perked up having that hydration. So slow down, allow yourself to walk, see if you can nibble something. I'll tell you this, when I was in Badwater the first year I did it in 2018, the reason why I was so nauseous and dizzy was because I didn't have I couldn't get calories in, and the heat was so extreme. So it was a recipe for disaster that I couldn't get anything in. And my pacer is like, even though you feel nauseous, you have to get calories in. So we came up with this little plan of I would very gingerly take in a little bit of gel and immediately chase it with water so I couldn't taste it. And I would do that over and over again, and it was a game changer. So chasing a little bit of calories with water is very helpful. It's a sneaky way to get something in. I know some people use boost drinks. There's those really thin chocolatey or vanilla protein drinks, but they have so many vitamins and minerals, and sometimes those can bring you back to life. Again, it's hard sometimes because it's flavored. Mm-hmm. Some people don't want to eat something chocolatey or vanilla, but you need to figure something out. That is actually how you're going to overcome it. So it's ironic because you're vomiting, but you need to get stuff back in if you think that you're going to cover the distance. So you're okay. If you are in altitude, unfortunately, just some people are dizzy and nauseous in altitude. So that's always a factor for me. I can go into altitude. It's the duration in which I'm in altitude. So typically once I'm in altitude for more than 4 or 5 hours, it's just something I've learned about myself over the years. I usually start to get dizzy. I have some natural breathing issues. That's part of it. So it's a long duration at less oxygen on top of breathing issues. I get very dizzy. So, I don't always tend to choose extreme altitude courses where I'm only in altitude the entire time. If a race has some altitude, maybe 30, 40 miles of it, we're going to be okay if that's part of a 100-mile race. And so that's the cool thing about ultras too, is you can kind of figure out like, how can I set myself up for success? So if altitude makes you nauseous and miserable, maybe other races are going to suit you better unless you can go and get, some acclimation training in, which not everyone has the time for that. Check in on your electrolytes. Are they balanced? Having an imbalance of electrolytes is one of the top reasons why people are vomiting. They either had way too much sodium, they don't have enough, they're dehydrated. You can check and see if you have goosebumps all over your body and it's 90 degrees out. That is a very good telltale sign that you are very severely dehydrated, and nausea will come with that. So again, get an ultra hydrator in there. You need to slow things down. Many times times in this situation, I do highly suggest actually sitting in an aid station. If you are in an aid station, you can get in shade, you can get that heart rate down. And who knows, you can turn that race around. I see this happen all the time. I have been in this sport long enough to even see race leaders, people who actually come back and win the race, will sit in an aid station for 15 to 20 minutes. They're vomiting. They are lying on a cot. They are miserable, but they are able to pick themselves back up. They get everything balanced back out, and they're hauling out of that aid station and catching people left and right. So your race is not over because you're nauseous, because you're vomiting. So don't be afraid. I think vomiting can be scary. I know it was for me in the beginning, but I'll tell you what. It many times is a sign that your body doesn't like what has gone in, or it needs something. It's your body talking to you. And this is many times a way that your body is recentering itself. You know, my Javelina 100 race in 2019, my teammate, Rachel Drake, was pacing me for the last loop. And you know, I had done UTMB just 6-7 weeks before that. I was not fully recovered. I had a long year of racing. I had a great year of racing in 2019. And I kind of threw in Javelina at the last minute. I was like, let's go. This is a fun race. It really is. Party in the desert. Let's go do it. And for the most part, my day was okay. I had Billy Yang out there helping crew for me. And Billy decided in that last loop, it was a hot day, to get me a Slurpee, or like an icy. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's basically crushed, smoothed out ice. And then they put this syrupy sugar over it. And you can get it in any flavor. You can get cherry and root beer. And you're basically drinking syrup mixed with ice. That's what it is. And it was hot, and I came in, and Billy was so excited to give this thing to me, and I was excited. I was like, you're the best. I ate that thing so fast. So that was the first problem. I didn't ease into that thing. Maybe a little bit of it would have been okay, because sugar is great, especially in, if you're mile 80 and 100, grab some candy, grab a cookie. Your body's going to use that. It's going to definitely put that to use immediately. And so I thought I would be okay. The cooling of that ice hitting my body was incredible. I was no more than a quarter mile out of the aid station, and Rachel is running behind me, and I just start vomiting. Now I wasn't this feverish, I'm sick vomiting. I kept running as I'm vomiting, and she starts laughing, and she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, that icy wasn't a good idea. My body didn't like it. And I just wiped my mouth and just continued running, and she starts giggling, and I'm giggling, and I'm like, yeah, sometimes you just know when the vomit is, hey, that was a bad idea. And I've been in the sport long enough to know, like, yeah, I made a bad mistake, but I'm not going to let this like take me out of the game. Mm-hmm. And, I think I was in the top 5 at that point. Nothing glamorous, but I wanted to stay in that top 5. And so, we worked through that, and I didn't have any more icy. So, if you don't, if you're vomiting and you don't stop vomiting for like hours on end, that's not good. If you have blood in your vomit, that's not good. If you have other symptoms, like extreme symptoms along with that, you should probably get yourself to medical and get checked out. I always say stock your pack, and also have your crew have on hand ginger chews, peppermint candies, ginger ale, saltine crackers, broth, ultra hydrators. And I'm talking about like electrolyte mixes. I know, what was the one that Limit, LMNT, has a 1,000 milligram? Yeah, Element. Scratch has I think Scratch has one that's like 1,600 milligrams of sodium. There's Liquid IV, and these are all ultra hydrators. You would not take these in every hour. I do not suggest like taking in 1 and 2 bottles of that every single hour, but they can do wonders a couple times in a hot race, or if you're feeling sick, or right before you race, topping off on those electrolytes. So that's really good. But you do have to approach that case by case. So vomiting could be like, hey, what you ate, not a good idea. Or, hey, we need more electrolytes. Or, I don't like altitude. It isn't always a bad thing, but you should be equipped. So I'm giving you the tools right now. Here's the reasons why it happens. So go through that list. Here are the ways that you can kind of move through it. I want to speak really quick to the athletes who, no matter what they do, they're always nauseous. And I actually trained an athlete that was like this. And it was a big part of my coaching with her, because every single long run, I was like, let's tackle it. Let's tackle it. And she does everything from 50 milers to 200 plus milers. I mean, she's a great athlete, but usually at some point, 6-7 hours into the race, she always threw up. I mean, and it was the point where all she could get in was ice chips. And I thought, we can't continue a career in running with you just eating ice chips and thinking that you're going to be proud of your performance if you are she was trying to improve her performances. And so your long run is going to be like gold to you. You need to figure out how well you do on a variety of foods. And even if you're like, I'm a gel person, I'm a liquid hydrator person, you need to still practice with options, because I have used things in races that I never, ever thought I would use. And Eddie, great example. You solved my nutrition at Lake Tahoe after like 24 hours and nothing. What is it that you brought me?
Gatorade and the smoothies.
A smoothie.
Yeah.
I never practiced with those things.
Never.
But it was like rocket fuel. Rocket fuel for me. And that is all that I had the rest of the race. You brought it to me like another aid station, and that actually helped me big time. I think after you gave those two things to me, I arrived at the next aid station an hour earlier than projected. I mean, it was really what I needed. So my whole point in that is you have to be kind enough to yourself to know that if you don't have access to your exact powders and gels, you should be able to move through what the aid station is offering you, but also be able to work with something entirely new. So don't put all your confidence in one gel or one powder drink, because there are sometimes external factors where those things are not going to work. And it could be because of altitude, extreme heat, or just like a combo of something where you're like, this doesn't taste good anymore. I can't take any of this down. Now what am I going to do? One of the years I ran Western States, I had very dialed in nutrition with gels and this carb drink. By mile 50, I was done. I did not want that anymore. And I became very sick. I then ran the next 50 miles entirely on ginger ale with a vanilla goo squeezed into that ginger ale into my bottle. And it was my fastest, best finish at Western States, but I had never, ever practiced with that in my training regularly. How did I come up with that idea? Well, I had many people in the aid stations were like, dude, ginger ale's great. Ginger ale's great. And Pacer's crew and everyone, I was like, gosh, I know that settles a belly. And so when I started drinking in the aid station, when I knew that my own personal nutrition wasn't working anymore, I thought, yeah, wow, the ginger ale, whoa, this tastes so good. Like it started tasting so good. And it's sugar. Yeah. It's sugar and fizz, right? You got that carbonation in there. But then I knew I have 50 miles. This isn't enough calories. I had watched a YouTube video on Ryan Hall back in the day when Ryan Hall, if you guys are not familiar, is still the American record holder for the marathon. After all these years, has the fastest men's road marathon and maybe the half marathon too. But awesome athlete. And I was watching one of his training videos and he talked about doing that. And I remembered that in the middle of Western States. Dude, he would squeeze in gels into his bottle. I've never heard that before, but I'll tell you what, it worked. It worked very well. And so anyway, part of your problems in races, a big piece is your ability to problem solve and to pivot. Listen, you were made to be flexible. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to break a lot easier, because what's going to happen is your problems and issues and discomfort will break you if you're afraid of them, or if you think that you are not strong enough to work through them, or if you have not considered them in advance, you'll be intimidated by them. So don't let your problems and setbacks intimidate you and break you. Learn how to bend and to be flexible and work through them. And my greatest piece of advice in all of that is consider what can go wrong in a long training run or in a race, and already have a solution to it. This doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to be pessimistic and everything bad happens to me, and so I'm just going to assume that's how my race is going to be. Some people think that way. I've heard it literally in a race. Well, this just always happens to me. Of course, this happens to me on race day. And then it's just this negative spiral of negativity. And guess what? That person's dropping out 10 miles down the trail because it's just not my day. No. Don't think that way. The worst of the worst could happen. You could be throwing up, diarrhea, can't get anything down. Stay in an aid station for 30 minutes, get yourself back to where you need to be, and get back on that trail. You are made to be flexible and to bend and work through these things. It is a part of the race journey. Working through your problems and how you respond to every situation in life is very powerful. And when you learn to work through discomfort, when you learn to work through those setbacks, you actually are building strength mentally. Because further down the road, you're going to look back and you're going to think back, just like I'm doing right now. I'm sharing with you guys examples that I've been through that happened a decade ago. And I look back and I kind of laugh right now, because in all those situations, I wouldn't have operated in the same way, because when I hit those situations now, I'm very different, but it's only because I went through it in the first place. So it's repetition after repetition after repetition. It's failure after failure and setback after setback that I now am able to stand on this foundation and tell myself, yeah, I've been through all of it. I know what to do now. I know my body well enough now. I have been there. I've done that. And now I also get to share that with you. I get to share that with my kids who are athletes. I get to share that with athletes that I coach. I get to share that with our podcast listeners. Listen, you're going to be okay. Don't be afraid when something goes wrong. Do not fear when a surprise setback comes your way. It is not meant to show you that you're weak. It's not meant to beat you down. It's to teach you something. It's to show you actually how strong you are. You do have the ability. You do have the tools in order to work through every situation in your life. You are resilient. And I'm very sorry if somebody told you that you're not. I'm sorry if somebody told you that you are fragile or that you can't handle A, B, and C because look at in the past where you weren't able to handle it. No. Don't let other people define you. Don't let setbacks and losses and failures define you. Those are situations in which you get to work through that will make you stronger. Those situations come because they're also setting you up for the bigger things ahead. And if you want to accomplish those big goals that are in your head that maybe you're intimidated to go after because you don't think that you're strong enough, I'll tell you what, you have to learn how to work through all the little hard things because there's bigger hard things ahead of you. And guess what? You get stronger every single time you work through those things. And I could sit here for the next 2 hours, Eddie, and share many other stories that I've had to work through on race day on the trail. And I had somebody write in not long ago. They're like, have you actually, had setbacks that took you out of a race? Could you share those things? Or this probably doesn't happen to you because you're pretty strong. If you are brand new to following this podcast or my journey, I'll tell you what, I have cried on the trail. I have sat on rocks. I've vomited. I've lost my intestines. I have had the blisters up and down the feet, the black toenails. I've run my first 100 on a fractured leg. I've twisted my knee. I've ripped a hamstring. I have done it all. And made a lot of decisions not proud of. And guess what? I'm still here. Still working through things. And I think that is such an exciting part now of my adventure because I've been in it for so long, I'm like, all right, now what else I'm going to work through? And I feel so much more confident because those things don't scare me. It's just like I get to gain another tool for my toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that even for you, Ed, as my crew chief, your first time crewing me was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So a little over 3 years ago. And you've learned a lot.
Yep.
You've learned a lot about how to crew me in so many different situations. You were put in the most extreme situation. The first time you crew me was Badwater in 2021. And I had diarrhea the entire race.
Yep.
And I remember telling you as you were helping me through that. I mean, at one point you had to hold up my body because I could barely stand up on my own two legs in order to go to the bathroom. Sorry, TMI guys, but this is the truth. And I cried and I was like, I am so sorry that this is your first experience being my crew chief and you have to deal with the lowest, most disgusting part of me. And I was really sad about that. But that was like, man, if you're going to learn something, you're going to dive into the deep end, full 2 feet in the most extreme environment in the extreme situation. It was very intense because I was chasing that first place finish. And you had to do a lot of growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I did. And it was very different and new. But yeah, I think that first time crewing, I learned a ton. I learned a lot about what to do, what not to do, and that was a good experience. And yeah, I think got a lot of stories for another podcast about that for sure.
We could probably do a whole podcast on being a crew chief and how to interact with your runner when they're at an all-time low.
Yeah.
See, after Badwater, we then went straight into the Choose Strong project. It was genuinely a project. It was a project of me getting to every start line completely under recovered.
Yep.
I knew that with each passing race, it would just become more and more difficult. The goal of the Choose Strong project, we weren't chasing podiums or finishing times or PRs. It wasn't about speed. There was a bigger story going on. If you have not watched the Choose Strong project film, you can find that on YouTube. It's not on my channel, but you can type it in and it'll come up. So you can kind of see there's a really big message behind that. But so you went straight from Badwater to the Choose Strong project and then straight into the Grand Slam. And I would say that those 3 years straight, probably the most extreme of my career. And you had to deal, I'd say, with every single circumstance that anybody would have to encounter in crewing. I don't think any piece of it was unavoidable, whether I was genuinely sick, hallucinating, breathing issues, vomiting, diarrhea. I mean, there was a lot that you had to sit with me in, but I think what I always appreciated about you was you always kept your eyes on the overall goal.
Yeah. Well, I think because you ingrained that into me as I was going into that the first time, like you worked so hard to train and you had this goal in mind. And so you told me that these things are going to come up, but I want to finish. I want to push through and that, that was part of what I was saying earlier, where I trusted you, that you trusted yourself, to make that call. So that part was easy because I knew that having that goal kind of primary and that was the focus. So when everything went south or, wasn't going as you wanted, that I know you wanted that, whatever that goal was for that race, I know you wanted that like so much. So I tried to always keep that as the center, as the focus, to make any decision, that based on that goal.
And I think moving on from that, so there's two parts in all of your problem solving, listeners. One of them is your internal talk. So what's going through your head, but you need to be mindful about who is also speaking to you externally. I've seen athletes, and I've been on every side of the trail. So I've been in aid stations as a volunteer. I love watching runners come in. I love listening to the dialogue. I've paced many people in 100 milers and crewing all that. I love being on the other side of racing, and I always pay attention to how people interact with discomfort and moving through an aid station. And what is important, you need to be mindful about what you're going through and who you share it with. And I know it's really easy when you're upset and you are emotional because you're at mile 68 and you just feel so raw and you're worn down and you're tired and things aren't going your way, to walk into an aid station and just announce all of your problems. I've seen this a few times. That is not wise. And there's a couple reasons why. So you need to be thoughtful about what you're dealing with, how you communicate it, because sometimes announcing all your problems to everyone in the aid station can not only make matters worse, but now you have to work through everyone's opinions of what you should be doing. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with, your crew comes in, or maybe you do want to talk to one person specifically, whether that's the aid station chief, or maybe there's a medical person there that you can speak to. But goodness, I was at Western States last year, and I had a buddy that walked into an aid station, and it was like everybody in that aid station, including medical and spectators, all knew that he had a blister. And the barrage of opinions, the number of voices, it was complete chaos when my friend sat down. And I was like, oh my gosh, y'all need to like quiet down and slow down, because we are now inducing anxiety and making this blister seem way more dramatic and way bigger than it actually is. When all we really need to do is just take off the sock. We need to do A, B, and C, put the sock back on, and get him back on the trail. We don't need a big, breakdown of what everyone's opinion is. And I know I'm very well versed in blisters now. Everyone has their idea of how to care for it and the reasons of why you got it and what you should do. I mean, I remember at Bigfoot, from aid station to aid station, medical to medical, all three of them dealt with my blisters differently. And one of them in particular, no names at all, one of them in particular made it worse. I mean, horrifically worse. And the next medical that had to go work on my feet, I started crying in the aid station because it was so painful that she had to fix what was maybe not a good idea for the taping and the solution the other medical thought. And these are volunteers doing the best they can. They are giving their time, so there is no complaints there at all. But my whole point is, have an idea. Have somewhat of an idea of solutions. Educate yourself before going into a race. Seek out really good sound advice and really understand how something should be done or how you respond in the best way. I now know I'm really well versed on blisters, the good products that work, taping jobs that work a little bit better, and just how my skin does. Where by the time I got to Moab, I was very specific with medical when I went in. No, this works. No, I don't want to use that. Let's use this. Okay. And then even just certain times not choosing to go into medical. So you have to own what you're going through. You have to understand that it's personal to you, that even if it's a common thing, that it's not going to be the same situation as everyone else. You're not going to be responding it, feeling it the same as everyone else. And be very discerning about the number of people that you share it with. Stay calm. Stay calm in all of your setbacks. Be thoughtful. Take a deep breath. Understand that the world isn't ending, that you are going to work through it. And sometimes it's just speaking to the people that you trust, or just one person in the aid station, to stay calm and work through all the solutions that you can. But, sometimes adding too many voices can actually make the problem worse. Yeah. And sometimes just needing to work through it on your own. So if you're like, yeah, I'm a little nauseous, but I'm not vomiting everywhere, I'm not dizzy and falling all over the trail, I'm going to come to an aid station, I know I need to eat. Do I need to let everyone in the whole aid station know that that I'm nauseous? Because what's going to happen, you're going to have medical, you need to lay down on the cot for 30 minutes. And maybe that deep inside you, that weakness that's coming out at mile 80 something, you're like, that's a great idea. I am going to lay down. But is that what you need? Is that actually what you need? Can you keep moving and be okay? Maybe just walking and eating. So you get to make these decisions for yourself, because for some people, yeah, laying down is what you need. But like I said, it isn't until you experience and work through these things that you're going to know. But I just say, make sure you have a full knowledge and full options that you're giving yourself to work through these things. And you be the ruler. You be the boss. You are the boss of your body. You are the boss of your goals. You are the boss of the story. You're the one writing it. And so take ownership, stay calm, have peace in your mind, know that you are equipped and that you are strong and that you can work through these things. So flexibility, problem solving, using that brain. And I talked about this earlier. That is your most powerful tool in all of it. Just because something is going sideways does not mean that you're not strong or that you can't work through it or that your race is over. It means that you get to get a little lesson. You get to learn something new, and you are going to be okay. Keep that mind strong. Stay hopeful. You're going to hit some low points the further you go in race distance. So the highs and lows, the mountain peaks and the valleys are 100% part of the 100-mile distance, especially the 200-mile distance. And if you know that standing at the start line, when it hits, you're like, oh, okay, so you're going to come at mile 30. All right, we're going to work through it. We're going to slow down. We're going to eat. We're going to lay down. But you know what? I know if I keep moving through it, I'm going to hit a high again. And I love that. Michael McKnight, who won Cocodona 250.
I was just thinking of him, yeah.
Right? I mean, what was that
example.
Story, Ed?
I don't remember I just remember he was pretty much
done
and out. Like everybody
mile
wrote
60.
him off. Yeah, there's like
it was mile 60.
He's out, right? Yeah, and then he got it together and then
he was in 70th position.
Yeah.
70th. And he came back to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe he had a course record. It was close to the course record.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
It was mile 60 when I saw him wrapped up in a blanket. His shoes were off. Struggling big time. And I left the aid station before him. And he came galloping, bounding past me at mile 110. You guys, it was like 50 miles later.
Yeah.
And he went on to win. Man, I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that. You guys, let's apply that to life right now. Let's apply that to life. Some of you listening might be going through a really tough season in your life. You are not done. There is a lot of life left to live. You do not know the end of your story. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to live your story. And right now you're in the conflict. And the conflict is going to have a turning point. And guess who is the main character? You. You're the main character. And how do you want this story to end? Go and write that story. And that is what I say to people in a race. If you're in a race right now, how do you want this story to end? What kind of race do you want? The best thing you can do for yourself is to stay hopeful, is to believe in those feet that are hitting the ground right now, and those legs that have been given to you, and the ability that you have. If you are in a race or you're in a training run right now, you have been given the ability to move, to cover terrain, to go the distance. There is breath in your lungs. There is strength in your legs. You get to do this. So if you're feeling nauseous or you're cramping, you get to work through that. And you're going to be a little bit stronger when you do. So don't give up. Keep going. Stay sturdy, my friends. Eddie, that's a new word that I'm really liking lately. Stay sturdy.
Stay sturdy.
That's a great word. You are strong and unmoving despite it all. And so that's the good word I'm going to leave you with today. When you hit problems in the race or in life, stay sturdy. Be immovable in the goal that you have set for yourself, but stay flexible in solving the problem. And you will absolutely amaze yourself at what you're capable of enduring, of persevering through, and accomplishing. And I'll tell you what, you guys, if I can do it, if Eddie can do it, you can too.
Yep.
Any final words, Ed, before we wrap this up?
No, that was terrific. That was good stuff.
It was good stuff.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you, Eddie, publicly for always being my greatest support in life and on the trail. The best crew chief that anybody could ever ask for.
That's right. The best.
For never giving in to all of my many, many problems on the trail over the years. For believing in me when I was at my darkest, lowest points. I can truthfully say I couldn't have done it without you, babe.
You can say that again, too.
We are the most humble couple around, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Friends, we are so glad that you decided to push play on this episode. We appreciate the opportunity that you've given us to run alongside you. We are so proud of you. We are rooting for you. And we just want to remind you again, the problems, the challenges, the discomfort, the unwelcome surprises in life, they are a part of life. And they are also what binds all of us together, because that is definitely the single most common thing that we can all relate to. When it comes to sitting down around this table and sharing a cup of coffee, we know what it feels like to have a loss, to have a failure, to hurt, to be uncomfortable. And so it is with great confidence that we say, keep going, because you are strong and you are going to get through whatever it is you're working through right now. So whether you are running right now or you're racing right now or you're working through that tough season in your life, we are rooting for you always. We want to encourage you to keep choosing strong in all you do.